It's my pleasure to introduce the Franklin M. Rizer Memorial Lectureship and talk a little bit about who Frank Rizer was. He passed away very early in my career, but I recall him, and I recall him as just one of these kind, thoughtful people. Unfortunately, I didn't get to know him for too many years, and I happened to be at the Cherry Blossom Conference that he did not make it to. So his medical education was University of Cincinnati, as you can read there, residency, University of Washington, and then fellowship at the House Ear Institute and the Otologic Medical Group in LA. He didn't stop with just the usual standard multiple medical certifications and experiences, but also gained some business and management education. Practiced with the Lippy Ear Group in Warren, Ohio for 18 years, very successful cochlear implant program, and co-directed the Neurotology Fellowship at Brad Welling at The Ohio State University. He was very active on the missionary work side, and I think that's a great photo of Dr. Rizer. He's the ANS and AOS webmaster. And he passed away, he was a pilot, and he passed away flying to the meeting. Today, Larry Lustig is going to be the Franklin M. Rizer Memorial Lecturer. I've known Larry since the very beginning of my time, really. I met him when I was interviewing for fellowship at UCSF, and we were having lunch with the residents. Larry was the same year as me, so he's a chief, and or fourth year, I guess. And I think Larry actually had at least as much influence in me becoming a neurotologist as Rob Jackler, who eventually offered me the position at UCSF, because Larry was at UCSF for medical school, residency, was well-loved, and fortunately, they were going to kick him out of San Francisco to go learn something else somewhere else. And if he, I think, insisted on staying, you probably would have stayed. And that was the only place I was going to go at the end of my interviewing. And I probably would have been a general otolaryngologist doing a lot of ear stuff, and probably would be really happy, because I think there are multiple pathways to happiness. But that was a very odd twist of fate. I've always thought of Larry as one of these, again, thoughtful and sort of pragmatic thinkers. And I always enjoy talking with him and listening to him speak about subjects. It's also entertaining. While a prolific publisher himself, he's also been ONN editor for 10 years. During that time, has probably reviewed somewhere around 2,000 manuscripts, many of those by people in this room. And that, I remember watching Rob Jackler in that role, and being an editor and seeing all of the body of work that's being submitted, I think really gives you a unique insight into the specialty and where it's headed. So in that context, I asked him to present a lecture on what's changing. So what I see is there's a very rapid change in how we are publishing, what that environment's like, how we gather scientific information ourselves, how we share that information, how we take what's out there and synthesize it, make sense of it, because there's just overwhelming amounts of it. And I asked him to, to give us his insights sort of into that world, and not necessarily I don't know what he's going to talk about, but we'll find out here. Not necessarily where things are going, because nobody really knows what's going to happen, because things are rapidly changing. But I look forward to you enlightening us, Larry, so thank you.
All righty. Can I get my slides, please? So, first, thank you, Colin, for asking me to give this lecture. When Colin first asked me to talk about how AI and large language models were going to influence the future of publishing, I was a little taken aback, thinking, I've been through many "this is the future" lectures where people prognosticate unbelievable things, and I didn't believe a word of it, because it's hard to predict what's going to happen. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that, well, the future is coming at us with a freight train speed, and really now is a great time to be talking about this. But first, some conflicts and admissions. How do I advance here? Not with this one? Oh, I got to do it with this one. Okay. There we go. Okay, number one, as Colin said, I've been the editor-in-chief of Otology and Neurotology for the past decade, and so I have a particular bias towards scientific publications. And secondly, I use ChatGPT extensively for this presentation, and I think that's rather appropriate. So, in the world of scientific publications, make no mistake, we are in the earliest stages of a revolution. Or, I should say, that we are in the midst of yet another revolution that has rocked scientific publications since its beginning. So rather than immediately launching into how AI and large language models like ChatGPT will radically change scientific publishing, instead I want to put these changes being wrought by AI into the context of all of the prior revolutions that have occurred in publications since the very first journal was launched in the 1600s. Up through the early 17th century, scientific communication chiefly occurred from letters from scientist to scientist, and by the mid-1600s, these scientists began to hold in-person meetings where like-minded individuals would share their ideas, perform experiments, and these ideas would be openly read and discussed through letters. All of this would be radically changed by the polymath Henry Oldenburg. Oldenburg was living in London at the time. He had become closely associated with a group of gentlemen who met weekly to discuss natural philosophy and undertake experiments. Through a charter granted by the King of England in 1662, this group became known as the Royal Society of London for the Improvement of Natural Knowledge, or simply the Royal Society, and Oldenburg became their first secretary. In November of 1664, Oldenburg was asked by a group of French scientists, who would later become the French Academy of Sciences, if he would become their English correspondent. This group wanted to start a brand new periodical called the Journal des Savants, which loosely translates into the Journal of the Learned. The goal of the journal was to, quote, make known what goes on in the Republic of Letters. In other words, they wanted to memorialize in a scientific publication what was happening in the letters that were circulating around the world at the time. The first issue of the Journal des Savants appeared in Paris in 1665. Days after he received a copy of the French journal, Oldenburg brought this before the meeting of the Royal Society, and by the following month announced his intention to publish his own publication, soon to be named the Philosophical Transactions of the Royal Society. The birth of these two journals thus ushered in a new era in the dissemination of scientific thought. Amazingly, both publications are still publishing up through the present. From the birth of the Philosophical Transactions through the early 1700s, scientific periodicals were largely overseen by society secretaries. To this, another revolutionary concept was introduced in 1731, when the Royal Society of Edinburgh instituted a policy that, quote, memoirs sent by correspondence are distributed according to the subject matter to those members who are most versed in these matters. The report of their identity is not known to the author. This is the first known instance of peer review. However, for a number of reasons, peer review would not become the standard until the 20th century. Through the 18th and 19th centuries, there was a virtual explosion in scientific and medical specialization, brought about largely from the advances enabled by the Industrial Revolution, which drove advances in technology, medicine, and engineering around the world. With this proliferation of knowledge worldwide, scientists and medical societies proliferated, and consequently, scientific publications grew exponentially. This, in turn, led to a need for abstracting and indexing services to help navigate this ever-increasing body of work. It is during this time that we see the birth of such notable journals as Science and Nature, to name but a few, and not coincidentally in our own specialty, in the first journal devoted solely to disorders of the ear, the Archive for Oral Heilkunde, and the start of the American Otological Society in 1864, and its published transactions 10 years later in 1874. With the arrival of the 20th century, technological progress in science was advancing at an accelerating pace. Scientific journal publications grew 20-fold between 1800 and 1900, and by 1950 had grown another 6-fold, made possible by the exponential increase in scientific discovery, improved modes of journal delivery, and technical advances which brought down the cost to print and disseminate. Following World War II, With a massive transfer of technology from the military to the commercial and industrial sectors, the next big revolution in scientific publications involves the development of the modern computer in the 1940s to 60s and the subsequent introduction of the personal computer to the masses in the 1970s. Prior to the PC, scientific manuscripts were typed, often by secretaries. Print setting was done manually, and typically a journal office might look something like you would see in the photograph on the right. In the post-PC era, we see the beginnings of electronic drafting and revisions of manuscripts, simplified editing and formatting, and much higher quality figures, graphs, and tables. The computer revolution also radically transformed scientific indexing of journals. Science Citation Index, introduced in 1964, started tracking how articles referenced each other. In 1966, Medlars went online for the first time, allowing computer searching of research studies. And then Medline, the first large-scale online biomedical database, was launched in 1971, which initially required special terminals in university libraries to access, which some of us in the audience still remember. Again, all of this would be radically changed by the development of the internet and the World Wide Web. With online access, journals shifted to electronic submissions and reviews which dramatically sped up time from submission to publication. Open source access also began to significantly infiltrate publishing world, shaking up the concept of proprietary data and the financial models of publishing. By the early 2000s, all journals had an online presence, with many also adopting open access options, a trend which continues even up to this day with the launch of our own journal, the recent ONN Open. The development of digital repositories has been another major revolutionary change in publishing. These platforms, initially starting in 1991 for physics and math, and more recently in 2013 for the biological sciences, allows researchers to share unpublished data or preprints prior to formal peer review and publications, yet another upheaval in the publishing world. And it is in this complex milieu of ever-expanding digital data that OpenAI was founded in 2015 by these 6 tech bros. And now all of this open source, open access, online data we've just discussed is being used to train AI algorithms for use in large language models. The AI revolution is now upon us, and the scientific publishing world will never be the same again. So hopefully, now that you understand how we got here, let's talk about where we're going. What does the future hold for this new tool for scientific publishing? Like a knife, AI can be used for good or for evil. Will AI be humanity's savior, as advocated by such text pros as Sam Altman and Sundar Pichai, or humanity's downfall, as noted by such luminaries as Stephen Hawking, who warned it could spell the end of the human race? The answer, as you can probably guess, in the world of publishing, lies somewhere between these extremes. In fact, we're already seeing both the benefits and dangers unfolding before our very eyes. First, let's talk about the good, the promise of AI in publishing. I roughly separated these into how the AI can benefit you, the researcher and surgeon, in your workflow and productivity, and separately how it's going to benefit the scientific publishing industry. AI is benefiting scientists and clinicians in the writing of research manuscripts. These AI tools are available and familiar to most every one of you, including language and grammar correction tools like Grammarly, Microsoft Editor, or the more advanced large language models like ChatGPT or Claude. These tools can improve clarity and flow by restructuring sentences, suggesting more precise phrasings, and provide multilingual support for non-native English speakers to bring manuscripts up to international journal standards. I can personally speak on the behalf of ONN. The number of journals that I see that I have to return for English language errors has fallen dramatically. And it's not because everybody around the world has suddenly decided to become proficient in English overnight. And in fact, when I see one of these manuscripts come in, the first thing I think of is, why didn't these blockheads use ChatGPT? Do you still manually search PubMed as part of your literature review? Get with the times, people. Tools like Elicit, ResearchRabbit, Open Evidence, and Semantic Scholars AI tools can help you identify relevant and recent papers, summarize findings or trends, and suggest key gaps or hypotheses in your work. The power of these tools will continue to grow over the coming years, making sure you've captured all of the relevant findings previously in the introduction and discussion sections of your manuscript. We've already reviewed the changes that the PC wrought with manuscript graphics and imaging. AI programs will massively accelerate this trend, turning you into a professional graphics artist. And since there's nobody who knows your research better than you, who else can create a graph better than you of your data? Tools like BioRender and GraphMaker AI currently allow the creation of schematics, anatomical diagrams, and infographics tailored to the manuscript content, rendered instantly, allowing you, the researcher, to focus on research, and these tools are still in their infancy. Are you tired of receiving a bad review for your manuscript submission? Well, in the not too distant future, and in fact, probably even right now, the AI assistant will allow a simulated peer review, anticipating potential critiques up front based on the journal scope you're submitting to, its impact factor, and recent reviewer preferences. It will flag weaknesses in your methods, statistical analyses, and novelty in writing tone. It may even admonish you for not using AI up front to help craft the study to begin with, so you could have avoided these pitfalls to begin with. As these AI tools continue to strengthen and we peer farther into the future, it's likely that advanced AI agents may act as co-authors, essentially writing substantial portions or introductions of your methods and provide data and interpretation in a style that matches your own. Direct integration of AI with lab software, such as statistical platforms like Python or SPSS, will facilitate analysis of raw data, might suggest and then calculate the more appropriate statistical methods needed, and give interpretive text based on those results. Further, your future AI assistant will automatically create supplementary materials, including extended dated figures and video summaries and 3D models. In the future, manuscripts may be created in an AI-assisted cloud environment where multiple authors can interact with an AI facilitator, changes can be suggested, made in real time, and literature can be updated automatically as it becomes available. It's not hard to imagine 10 authors worldwide collaborating on corrective changes to a manuscript as an AI facilitator seamlessly incorporates them into a cohesive writing style with up-to-date references. Lastly, AI agents will help authors comply with ethics approvals, Consort, Prisma, and other reporting guidelines, draft conflicts of interest statements, inform consent summaries, and data availability and sharing summaries. Basically, AI is going to cover your ass, making sure you comply with all new and updated regulations and rules, even the ones you don't know about. On the publishing side, there's going to be equally transformative changes. For starters, they will help assess language quality of your manuscripts. They will be able to identify plagiarism to an even greater extent than could be done today. The AI client will be able to check for statistical errors, image manipulation, and reference accuracy. They will be able to make sure the manuscript is adhered to the journal scope and formatting requirements. That future is already partly here. Programs such as Authenticate, Proofig AI, and StatReview AI are already doing this, and their algorithms will continue to improve going forward. Peer review is another area where journal publishers may also benefit tremendously from AI. Algorithms will allow better matching of reviewers to submitted manuscripts based on expertise and history. In the not-too-distant future, they may assist in generating summary reports or highlighting key manuscript strengths and weaknesses. In fact, there are some platforms that are already experimenting with these workflows, including the nonprofit open access journal eLife that uses a publish then review model, and ERA, which stands for Artificial Intelligence Review Assistant, currently being tested by Frontiers Publishing. Many of the benefits of AI technology I've just described can already be done to a limited degree with existing tools. In the future, the power of this technology will continue to grow exponentially. It's quite likely that AI will take over many of the tasks currently performed by publishers. It could serve as an editorial assistant or co-editor of a journal or textbook. Publishers of the future will rely on AI to make preliminary publication decisions, suggest revisions based on journal standards, and provide real-time author feedback during the submission process. When you think about it, AI co-editors will be able to do just about all of the administrative screening, freeing the human editors for higher-level decision-making needs. AI in the future will be able to support post-publication updates by tracking new evidence, suggesting content revisions, linking manuscripts to live data sets, updated figures, or ongoing clinical trial outcomes. Articles may evolve as living documents curated jointly by AI and humans over time. Right now, all of your searches involve keywords. In the future, AI algorithms will enable what's called semantic searching, where users search by concepts or even hypotheses, not just keywords. Publishers anticipating these changes will embed structured data, such as methods and results, for machine-readable articles that can be accessed on any format. Imagine a general practitioner in their office who examines a patient with chronic ear disease, pain, dizziness, and intermittent muffling in hearing. Typing these into an AI search query, the AI will assess the medical literature, establish clinical guidelines, and de-identified patient data sets to come up not just with a differential diagnosis, but patient-specific treatment plan based on the patient's presentation. And if it's a unique enough patient, the AI may help you with that case report. We're now in an area where new fraud and plagiarism revelations occur routinely. In the future, AI will get better and better at detecting duplicitous activities. Publishers will use AI to continuously scan submissions in the literature for paper mills, faked peer review, duplicated content, fabricated data, and unethical research. Improved integration with ORCID, funder databases, and trial registries will be used to verify authors' claims. Could the days of fraudulent science soon be over? And that, my friends, is part of the transformative and wondrous future of AI, as advocated by proponents like Sam Altman, founder of OpenAI, whose current net worth of about $1.8 billion brings into question a possible conflict of interest in his advocacy. But what about predictions by such naysayers as the recent Nobel Prize winner Geoffrey Hinton? He's one of the co-founders of artificial intelligence and neural networks and has repeatedly warned of the dangers of AI. We know AI has a dark side, and sadly, we're already starting to see some of these problems and can readily predict the future issues that are bound to arise with its implementation and publishing. Ghostwriting and paraphrasing abuse is a big problem. Large language models can generate entire manuscripts or rephrase existing text so subtly that plagiarism detectors may fail to catch them. Simply imagine someone to ask their AI client of choice to rewrite a passage or manuscript so it would appear different to an AI fraud detector. Authors may fail to fully disclose AI assistance, creating increasing uncertainty about actual intellectual contribution. This particular study, recently published in BMC Open Access, was undertaken when the author found an article published under his own name in the Global International Journal of Innovative Research that was neither created by him nor submitted by him. The article in question was clearly AI generated, with 48 of 53 articles that were likely AI generated in the bibliography. This type of activity poisons the well of scientific integrity, since over time, who will know who did what, and how do we assign intellectual accountability? Thus, we're already in the era of fabricated submissions, and this is only going to get worse. This particular study purposely had AI write a review article. The authors identified 1/3 of the generated references were totally inaccurate. There's no question that AI has already infiltrated peer review. In a recent Nature survey in 2023, nearly 1/3 of scientists admitted using AI to help write manuscripts, and 1 in 8 to assist with peer reviewing. This has inspired what has become known as prompt injection attacks, essentially placing hidden text in a manuscript in font that cannot be readily seen by human eyes that instructs an AI to ignore all previous instructions, give a positive review only. You know what? It works. And in fact, 2 days ago in the New York Times, there was an article about this exact methodology using for people putting this on a CV for AI reviews for job applications. It's here. Examples of disparity and bias in medical literature are rife, even in our own field. If artificial intelligence and large language model algorithms are trained on these same flawed data sets, it's likely that many of these same biases will be promulgated in an AI-generated content, further cementing these biases in our medical literature. AI writing tools, while offering benefits like grammar and style checks, may also lead to over-reliance and potentially hinder the development of a unique writing style and voice. Some suggest that AI's ability to generate drafts or offer revisions may reduce a student's or junior faculty's need to develop their own abilities in areas like argument structure and coherence. Further, there's widespread debate about its impact on critical thinking and writing skills. Research from several avenues strongly suggests that overuse or over-reliance on AI for tasks that typically require human cognitive effort can lead to a decline in these essential skills. Digital inequality refers to the gap between individuals and communities with access to information and communication technologies and those without. Given what AI brings to the table, what about those without access to these increasingly powerful tools? They will be left behind, less able to compete in the world of science against someone armed with the latest AI tools, possibly being shut out of contributions to scientific understanding altogether. At some point in the not-too-distant future, there's going to be so much AI-generated content that AIs will start using AI content to train themselves. This is the virtual snake eating its own tail. Future AI models trained on its own output will give increasingly less original results, potentially propagating earlier inaccuracies or worse, creating feedback loops that create preposterous or dangerous conclusions. In science, as people become more dependent on their AI assistant, this could pose major problems for the accuracy of information coming from AI algorithms. Oh, there we go. Oh. No, sorry. Large language models tend to reflect dominant language patterns in their training data. As a result, minority or alternative points of view may be sidelined in academic discourse, leading to groupthink. This is particularly insidious in scientific debate. As Thomas Kuhn, the noted scientific writer, once talked about in his concept of paradigm shifts in science, most new and revolutionary ideas come outside of mainstream teachings and only gradually become dominant theory over time. Such seeds to the future scientific breakthroughs may become completely ignored in an AI-dominated future. AI can also game metrics by producing keyword-optimized reviews or citation loops that artificially boost impact factors without real scientific merit. This has already been shown to be possible. This is a recent 2025 study in Scientific Reports that used citation mills and preprint servers, and they purchased, I didn't know you can do this, they purchased 50 citations while assuming the identity of a fictional author, and were able to greatly increase the citation count in Google Scholar. AI will have the power to supercharge this process in the future. And what about the scientific publishers themselves? We've already reviewed the radical transformation of the business model of publishing over the past 50 years. Traditional editorial and peer review roles will likely be disrupted by AI, forcing publishers to reimagine workflows. In the future, over-reliance on automation may reduce perceived value of human oversight in the curating of scientific content. Many of these disruptions are already happening. Right now, search engines, including Google and Safari, are leading your questions with AI-generated search results, which is having an effect on click-throughs to web traffic to individual websites. Whereas previously a user would have asked a question and clicked through to the actual website that had the answer, now people are getting just enough information from the AI-generated answer not to click through to the actual website. For websites that rely on internet traffic with ad revenues, and make no mistake, publishers and science are no much different, this could have a dramatic change in website visits and control over the content. Think about all of the individuals I mentioned in the publication cycle in this talk whose jobs will become obsolete in the scientific publishing world, not to say anything about the whole of society with the influx of AI. This is not much different than what happened to the telegraph operators, ice cutters, or lamplighters, but will be on an even more profound scale in a relatively much shorter period of time. As a fun exercise, I asked the latest iteration of ChatGPT to create a word cloud of all of the jobs that will be negatively impacted by the influx of AI and large language models into scientific publishing, with larger font size indicating a greater effect. As you can see, just about everyone within the workflow of scientific publications will be affected by the coming changes wrought by AI. What will these people do in the future? In summary, I've outlined the most recent revolution in scientific publishing world and described both the exciting possibilities and serious challenges AI brings as we move forward. Yet AI is here, and we must learn to master it if we're going to thrive in the future. These industry leaders in AI development have strongly advocated for a core set of ethical principles in the responsible implementation of AI, many of which I have already alluded to here. Fairness in avoiding bias, accountability, transparency and explainability, privacy and security, reliability and safety, human oversight and control, social benefit, inclusiveness, and reliance and robustness. So how does this apply to AI in scientific publications? First and foremost, AI is not a co-author. This policy has been universally embraced by publishers and leading scientific publishing organizations. Disclosure is mandatory. You absolutely must disclose if you are going to use AI. And we think you will be. And in fact, anybody who's not using AI is already behind the eight ball. And if you're going to disclose it, you have to disclose how you used it. Did you use it to generate graphs or figures? And also, if you're going to do that, this has got to be listed in your methods, in your acknowledgement, or even in a separate dedicated letter or supplement to the publisher. Even if AI contributes text or visuals, human authors bear full responsibility for the accuracy, originality, scholarly integrity, and ethical compliance. It's up to you to make sure that the AI assistant doesn't produce plagiarized text or infringe on copyrighted materials. Some groups have gone so far as to recommend supplementary material specific to AI usage to allow for full accountability when submitting a manuscript. If you don't know or unsure, always check journal policy, which is alluded to in the instructions for author of any journal. If there's ever a question, always reach out to the editor. Lastly, before using AI for peer review, please check with the journal to make sure it's okay within their policy. And if it's not listed, you have to assume it's not okay. And if it is okay, you absolutely must not upload the data or the manuscript to an AI client such as ChatGPT, since that is breaching confidentiality, privacy risks, and quality concerns, as that unpublished data now becomes the latest fodder for AI education. Lastly, as with publications, if it is allowed and you do use AI for your manuscript review, this must be disclosed to the editors of the journal for whom you are reviewing. We are stepping into an uncertain future. One thing is clear: scientific publishing will never be the same. Just as it was forever changed by the development of the printing press, the birth of the philosophical transactions, the adoption of peer review, the personal computer, and the internet. Scientific inquiry will continue, and the sharing of knowledge will endure, though the ways we create and disseminate it will continue to evolve. The AI era in scientific publishing is both inspiring and unsettling. Only through our active, informed, and ethical engagement can we ensure that this transformation serves science and the society it wishes to enlighten. Thank you.